Welcome to Facing the Nation for January 10th, 2025. And allow me to wish you all a happy new year. This is a special year, of course, for us. It is the year where we have to apply all of the things that we have been talking about for over a year. And, this is the year where Guyanese have that decision to make that will either better our lives or carry us in a spiraling downturn even further. But knowing our Guyanese people, I don't see that happening. I see our Guyanese making the right decisions in this year to ensure that this beautiful country of ours experience growth and the citizens actually having a good and a beneficial life, not just for them, but the generations to come. So, as we start, this is my first program. This is my first program for the year. And, I just want to, in fact, it's my second program for the year. I just thought that I needed to re-emphasize what we need to be doing as we view this year, as we gear for all the things that are to come this year, and for our people to continue to hold the government, the current government, and any other government that comes accountable as we better this nation. Of course, today I have a guest. And, before I introduce the guest, it is customary for me to remind you to call up a friend, call up a neighbor, and let them know that Facing the Nation is on. And they can follow us, of course, on the APNU YouTube page, the People's National Congress Reform YouTube page, the People's National Congress Reform Facebook page, APNU AFC Facebook page. Call up that friend, call up that neighbor, let them know Facing the Nation is on, because we're going to be having a great discussion today, sharing information that you must have. So call up everybody and let them know that we're here. Today, my guest is no stranger to this platform. She's no stranger to this show. She has been doing lots of work on the ground and, of course, in the parliament, because we see so many things coming out. And we want to sit down with her today to discuss some specific issues. And my guest today is Miss Annette Ferguson, Member of Parliament, Shadow Minister of Housing and Water, and of course, former Minister of that very ministry and of Public Infrastructure. Welcome, Miss Ferguson.
Thank you very much, Shaneika, for having me on your program this afternoon. May I take this opportunity in extending warm greetings for 2025 to your viewers and listeners, and at the same time to say a pleasant afternoon to them all.
Thank you so much. Well, you're not a stranger to the show, so I'm not going to go into the little integrities that we do with first timers, but we are going to go right into our discussion today because, when you start talking, the time goes so quickly because there's so many
Indeed.
issues there to deal with. I want us to start on something that is more general and, that a lot of persons have been talking about. We have been seeing statements coming left, right, and center, and we have been seeing the chaos of this cash grant, where we saw the president coming out one day and saying that there'll be this instantaneous distribution of this cash grant at one amount, 200,000 per household. Then we flipped from that to it being 100,000 per person. Then we flipped from it being instantaneous to maybe next year. That is when it was announced in 2024, which we're now in 2025. And the process has started. There is so much chaos in all the regions that it's occurring. And you have been one of the persons, particularly visiting as well, what has been happening to the pensioners, which should have been a much smoother process because, of course, you're handing stuff to pensioners every single month without the chaos and confusion. But for this cash grant, we're seeing it. So let's talk about what you've seen when you've been out there and what's really happening from the viewpoint that you have.
Thank you very much, Shanika. But if I can give a brief backdrop to the issue that we're discussing here, firstly.
Mhm,
You're absolutely correct. On October 10th, 2024, many Guyanese would recall that when the president, Mr. Irfan Ali, um, addressed the National Assembly, he did announce that the sum of 200,000 will be paid as cash grant instantaneously to households. And
mhm,
I think after that announcement, many Guyanese, including the opposition, called on
mhm.
the government to define what
What's that
constitutes a
household?
household. And they
Mhm,
realized that their backs were against the wall because even I guess even them themselves or they themselves don't even understand or don't even know what is the meaning of a household. So you had that on October 10th, 2024. Then less than 5 hours, Mr. Jack Dio,
mhm,
the real president that is governing this country, came out and he said, oh no, it will be $100,000. And then subsequent to that announcement, he did not state instantaneously, but subsequent to his announcement of 100,000, I think the very Thursday, you would recall that the Friday he hosted a one-man press conference with, I think I'm trying to remember if it is Critic or one of the journalists from one of the news outlet. And he said, well, look, he has been, or the party has been engaging with different ones, and this thing household might bring some issues, right? So
mhm,
what is going to happen? We will have those who are 18 years, and he had given a specific time, I think January, who became 18 as January 31st, 2024. And you would
mhm,
recall that the former Minister of Finance, Mr. Jordan, came out and he
mhm,
said, no, man, this is wrong. We should probably look at it persons who are 18 years and older. Then they came out again to say that persons who will be 18 years by January 31st, no, December 31st, yeah, 2024, right?
mhm,
Then we heard about an app because you would recall, well, even before the app, we were told as a nation that, well, look, they're going to use the national registrants list, that's the list
mhm,
from GCOM, to effect these payments. Shanika, you would recall that the opposition proposed several recommendations and suggestions how this can be rolled out. So they realized perhaps that they would be caught once the opposition, whether the councillors and the leaders within the respective communities and regions will be involved. We will get a sense as to how many persons actually they are in Guyana as it relates to, for the elections. So that didn't work. So what Jagdeo did at several other press conferences, he announced that an app will be created by the Ministry of Finance and the National Data Management Authority (NDMA). And again, the opposition put forward several recommendations how this should be done. So he claimed that this app persons would be able to download the app and follow the necessary steps. That didn't work, Shaneika. So what we had in the National Assembly, they came on December 18th with a financial paper seeking some 30.5 billion Guyana dollars to effect this payment of 100,000 cash grants to Guyanese. Many questions were asked in the National Assembly by myself and colleagues who drilled, because this money is now being placed under the office of the Prime Minister. And I had concerns because how come the Prime Minister's office is now required to deal with cash grant? I thought that this kind of arrangement could have fall under the Ministry of Finance proper or the Ministry of Human Services and Social Security, just as we did for the COVID 25,000 cash grant. No, even the Prime Minister, Mr. Mark Phillips, he couldn't even answer many of the questions we asked. We asked, why is it that Guyanese are now forced to have their photos taken and to provide necessary pertinent information, that might be considered private, when we have systems already in place? Public servants get their salaries through the bank. Their joint services, they get their salaries through the bank. Many government office officials, they get their salaries through the bank. So why you want to create a whole new regime outside of the GCOM's office that has the responsibility by legal rights to ensure that photos are taken and persons' private information are provided? That is GCOM's role, not the Ministry of Finance or somebody sitting out of the office of the president asking you to provide you with such information. So what they did, to answer your question, what they did, the monies were passed in the National Assembly, and they started, I think, the registration process, I think, even before those monies were passed. But they continued the registration. And what they did is that they said that public servants and pensioners will be the first persons to benefit from this $30.5 billion. Shaneika, just before the holidays, we read or we saw schedules for regions 1, I think 1, 4, Georgetown, 7, 8, and 9, where persons were allowed to go to venues to get registered. And that is where the chaos started, because Shaneika, you in your schedule, you said to this nation that, well, look, if you're living in Georgetown, in Lodge, you can go to the National Cultural Center, Tarmac. We have a registration site. Then you came days after, Shaneika, to say to the Guyanese people, you could go anywhere. To get. And I know friends who resides in regions 5 and 2 and 3 and 6 who came to Georgetown and got registered. So the whole chaos and the whole confusion was created by no other than the government of the day. So what you find happening now is that many teachers, they haven't been paid their checks as yet, because I know of persons who are teachers.
Yes.
They have not received any monies. They put out an announcement that pensioners, I know I heard and I read NIS pensioners, but what the
Mm-hmm.
government failed to do is to probably keep at it, the sensitization advisory, put the sensitization advisory out there, where persons will know exactly, well, look, the NIS pensioners are the persons who we will pay first. Couple of weeks ago, I think it was last week, Monday, I was on the
Mm-hmm.
ground and I visited NIS office there in Brickdam and Chalmers Place. And Shanika, it was so painful to watch
Mm-hmm.
our seniors out there. You understand me? Standing in the hot, broiling sun, no drinking water, nobody to guide them, nobody from the government, whether the Ministry of Finance or the Office of the Prime Minister or DPI, NCN. Nobody was out there to provide the
Mm-hmm.
necessary assistance to these pensioners. You had persons coming who are not NIS pensioners, but receive the government monthly old age pension of 36,000 torn up there because the
Mm-hmm.
here is pensioners. But then again,
Correct.
there's several categories of pensioners. You got the NIS pensioners, you got the old age pensioners, you got the government
Mm-hmm.
pensioners. So if the government was consistent in their messaging, the chaos that we saw out there, that I saw out there last Monday at NIS office, would not have been revealed because it is a total lack of planning. They have no regard for Guyanese, and they believe that they can treat Guyanese in any old fashion. Shanika,
Mm-hmm.
they paid Letem. I think it was the first region they paid out the 100,000 cash grant to. A
Mm-hmm.
day like today, many of the residents there in that region, they have been registered. Some registered since December 3rd, 2024. It's now the 10th day of January 2025, and people are still querying. People are still asking when their checks will be made available. Now you create this app asking
Yep.
persons to input their ID number as their reference number. When the
Correct.
information comes up, oh, um, registration verified or something to that effect, or check is to be printed.
Check
You understand me?
check to be printed,
Yeah,
submitted. Some people
exactly.
nothing.
Nothing. So
Mm-hmm.
therefore, and then what is missing from the app also, in some regards, is that persons, one, don't know when their checks will be made available. Secondly,
And where?
persons don't know where they have to go to uplift these checks. So you see the
Mm-hmm.
chaos and the confusion, but the government is on record saying that 90,000 checks have been cut at the last report I saw Ashley Singh put out there. 90,000 checks have been cut, and I think it's close to over 100 and something persons have been registered.
Three
Now, the
hundred
question
something
to
they
ask
claim.
is 300 and something thousand? Okay, I stand
Yes,
corrected.
and only
The,
90,000 checks have been cut.
exactly. So something is wrong.
Mhm.
Something is wrong, Shanika, because monies should not be an issue. Because if you say you registered 300 and something persons, I mean, you already covered the $30.5 billion that have been approved in the National Assembly. So if you say 90,000 checks have been paid, therefore, you're saying to me it has to be about, is it 9,000 persons? Or my figure might be a little off here. I'm trying to find out. Well, 90,000 persons. Yeah, 90,000 persons. 90,000 persons. Checks have been cut for
Printed
90,000
for
persons.
90,000 persons,
Good.
yes.
So
Mm.
90,000 persons by 100,000. Therefore, you're saying to me it's close to 900 million from the $30.5 billion. So, as I said before, Shanika, the monies should not be an issue. So, if you have over 300 persons have been registered, the monies that we approved in the National Assembly, those 300 people should have already
Received.
received their checks.
Mhm.
So what are you waiting for? Now it brings me to the other point, Shaneika, and I trust I'm not rushing here, so you can stop me at any
No, you
time,
can
right?
go ahead.
Yes,
Go
yes.
ahead.
The other category of old age of pensioners you have would be the old age pensioners, those who receive the old age pension assistance every month. Now, Shanika, we
Mhm.
don't know when those persons will be paid, and I'm waiting to see what how the situation will unfold itself, because we have seen what transpired part in Georgetown when the teachers had to receive their monies. We saw what
Mhm.
happened in region number 9, in region 1, in region 8, and in region 7, the big confusion. Now,
Mhm.
these old age pensioners, this is a special set of grouping who take it upon themselves every month to go to the post office, sit there to be served, and to receive their
Mhm.
$36,000. Now, how the government intends to deal with this, because this is bigger money now you're talking about. So, are you saying to me that these pensioners will now have to go to the post offices and receive liquid cash? A lot of things can play out, a lot of things can play out, because when the pensioners leave that place, they can be easily robbed, because people know that, well, look, today pensioners got to go to border post office to receive the 100,000 cash grant. So you will have
Mhm.
the vultures waiting to attack them out there. So I trust that the government, when they're ready to effect the payments for the old age pensioners who receiving the old age pension of $36,000 per month, that they will find a different way and a different method to effect these payments, because we do not want our elderly persons to be attacked, to be harassed, and to be robbed of what is duly theirs. The other category of persons that I haven't seen the government say much or put out much information on are shut-ins. How do you
Yeah,
intend to deal
correct.
with shut-ins? I am
Mhm.
not speaking about those who are residing at the government institutions such as the PALMs, or you have private operators who have their private
Mhm.
homes and so forth. I am speaking
Correct.
about shut-ins at homes. My
Correct.
grandmother cannot move. How would she be able to get registered? That the
Mhm.
government hasn't shared any information on. And I can tell you, I have been inundated with such information. We're not seeing anything, Miss Ferguson. So I got to use my little judgment to provide the necessary assistance or
Mhm.
information to the people. So I'm calling
Mhm.
on the government. You got time, and I've been saying this, Shanika. If this government from day 1, day 2, you saw the confusion, you should have put a halt in the entire process. That is what you should have done. Put a halt in the entire process for another 2 weeks. Let us get our house in order. If we got to use the banking system for the public servants and all the other public officers, let us do
Mhm.
just that, as we would normally do on a monthly basis. Now you got ministers showing up at these ministries, and you got the poor staff them taking out 100
Pictures. Mhm.
for opportunity. Now, this is taxpayers' money, and public servants must be bold enough to say, I want picture. This is my money. And why I should stand with Frank Anthony, why I should stand with Susan Rodriguez or Colin Kroll, why I should stand with Zulfika Mustafa to have my photos taken. This is my
Mhm.
money. This is my
Mhm.
money. So I trust, Shanika, the government find ways and means to address this confusion that they have created. I have also, yeah, you want me to continue?
Say
I'll
what
make
you're
this
saying.
last,
I wanted to make a point, but go ahead.
I'll make this last point. I am on record saying to this government by way of a suggestion or recommendation. Rather than moving to other regions, what you should have done is ensure you get in region one, you get 100% distribution before you move to region four. So it's not a case you're giving out cash, you're giving out checks in region one, and at the same time you're doing registration in the other regions. No, it should not be like this, because what you will find happening, Shanika, a man who lives in region one was unable to get registered in region one during the period of registration is in region four. What you will find happening, that individual will now come to region four and get registered. Tell me, when will that person check be ready?
Now, you're giving solutions that some people, they'll say it takes longer, etc. That's one of the things that they usually like to hit back and say, we want to stall process and what's not. But one of the points that people have been making, for instance, with the teachers, they had a system where they paid grants to more than the amount that they're doing for teachers in terms of persons. There are more children in schools than are teachers. And you
Yeah,
had a cash grant system where you allowed for those cash grants to be picked up at the school. Why is it then
exactly.
it was it made no sense to you to send those checks maybe to the schools? You know where these teachers are registered, you pay them every month, you know which school they're at, and say just go to your school, you distribute the school the and it's checks. It's not money in hand that nobody can do anything with. You have to
Yeah.
sign for it. You distribute it to the head teacher and have them hand them out with the same procedure you did for the children. But you know what? I want to say, I believe that what you have been seeing is what the government likes: chaos, confusion, so that they can implement the corruption, frustrate
Exactly.
people from wanting to go and collect the money, then they can thief the rest,
Mm-hmm.
because it
Mm-hmm.
makes no sense. The Ministry of Education should be the first one saying, we'll make this simple. We do it
Yeah.
every year and
Yeah.
pay the teachers at their school. But it is clear that this government loves chaos and confusion, especially when it comes to certain areas. You have public servants, a payroll for them, all their bank account, they work with you. You pay them every single month. They didn't even need to collect a cash, a check in and send it to their bank the same way
Exactly.
you do their
Mm-hmm.
salary. But of course, I thought when they said they were going to do pensioners and public servants first, that was the reason for it. They have less confusion while they figure out how they're going to
Mm-hmm.
deal with the man that don't have an account for the areas that you don't
Exactly.
have information for people. But of course, that is not their concern. Their
Mm-hmm.
concern is to create confusion to steal the money. That's how I put
Yeah.
it over. You
Yeah.
know,
But okay.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was about to, sorry if I interrupt your
No,
trend of
no, go
thought.
ahead.
Yeah, because you made mention of the teachers and how the government could have dealt with the teachers.
Mm-hmm.
Don't forget, many teachers too, their salaries, just like the public servants, they receive their
Pays the
salaries
bank.
through the bank,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
When the cash grant registration was being done for teachers, I can tell you, the enumerators went to each school.
Mm-hmm.
The numerators went to each school, and each teacher or each educator within that school was able to get registered. I can
Mm-hmm.
tell you on the day of the registration, I have a sister who is an educator. And on the
Mm-hmm.
day of the registration, she hadn't her ID on her. So she had to shoot home to get her ID and then return to have her registration done. What the
Mm-hmm.
government should have done, you know, let's say, for instance, let's take Wolford Avenue, for example. You got North
Mm-hmm.
Georgetown, you got St. Joseph High, you have Stella Maris Primary, you have Tutorial High School,
Tutorial.
you have
Mm-hmm.
and Stella Maris Nursery. So you got 5 schools on the eastern half of Wolford Avenue. Tell me, for each of those schools, you know the teachers who got registered, you couldn't cut the checks and have those checks sent to the schools. And the
Mm-hmm.
administrator of the school, being the headmistress or headmaster, they would have had the responsibility of ensuring that the various teachers receive their salaries. You know, you sign up, you sign receiving a check. On the western half of Wolford Avenue, you have what is school name again? Precious Jewel Nursery School. You have North Georgetown Primary
Georgetown
School, and you have
Primary.
Richard Ishmael Primary School. You even have
Secondary.
The Islamic private school in that area, and we
Mm-hmm.
have QC
GTI.
just and
Uh,
GTI. Just so
mm,
for me, that could have been a pilot test for the government. Utilize Wolford Avenue as your pilot test, and you can use it once it worked effectively. You could have used it for the other areas in Georgetown and across the country. But yet again, we see this government for who they are: corruption, confusion, chaos.
mm-hmm.
That's
And
their DNA.
incompetence. Mm-hmm.
Yes, right.
Now, in the sector of water and housing, we know a lot as well is happening in that area. I want us to start off with addressing a response that was made today by the minister after a video was released yesterday, where you basically explain that they're claiming they're spending all of this money on water, particularly in this case, but the water isn't good coming through our pipes. Almost every other day you go on Facebook, people are throwing up videos with the condition of the water, whether it be in region 4, whether it be in region 10, whether it be in region 6. You're having it all over the country. Now,
Mhm.
in her response, she tries to talk about the amount of wells that you talked about, but I believe she wasn't she didn't realize you were referring basically to that ministry, because under the
Yes.
coalition we also know that under the Ministry of Natural Resources, in collaboration with the government of Brazil, there were tons of other wells done in region 9, and beyond the point of the amount of wells being placed, because I think it was over 40 wells at the time being placed in region 9 alone. We haven't discussed any other region, and the fact that the water being received, especially in that region, was not only in many areas, in many villages, it was the first time those
Yes.
areas received water after being under the PPP for 23 years. It was the first time many of those areas received water. They didn't only receive water, but they received water that was potable and not in the
Yes.
condition that people are describing. And thirdly, one of the major reasons, particularly in Region 9, was because during the dry season under the PPPC government, people had no water. And those
So true.
wells were there as well to ensure when the dry season comes that they get water. So, you know, she talked about that, and she went on to talk about how much money again they're spending comparing to what the coalition would have spent during the time. And here again, it is as if they do not realize that you're spending more money and getting nothing from the money
Yes.
that you're spending. And without
Exactly.
shame, that is her response on her page. Let's talk about that.
You know, Shanika, let me say this. Sometimes I am amazed at what I see coming out from the Ministry of housing, and water, specifically where Susan Rodriguez is concerned, because she seems to be the TikTok minister rather than really settling down and ensuring that there are deliverables under her remit. What Susan Rodriguez and her colleagues failed to realize that from 2015 to 2020, there was no oil money. There was absolutely no oil money. The monies that were being used to effect government services to the people of Guyana to better their lives were monies from the traditional resources, timber, gold, diamond, and you name it. Not even sugar. Not even sugar, because we were pumping more than we were pumping more than getting out anything from sugar. But sugar is another topic for a
By
separate
itself.
topic
Yes.
by itself. So, under the coalition government, we were able to correct many of the mess we met for 23 years. In Region 9, many of the communities never saw water coming through their taps. They depended heavily on the little wells that they will dug in their communities, or from the creeks
Rain. And the
within
creeks.
the drains within their communities. That is how those our Amerindian brothers and sisters survived under the People's Progressive Party Civic from 1992 to 2015, just before May 11th. So what the coalition did, and you've earmarked some of our achievements, we were able to get, in collaboration with the government of Brazil, they sent their military personnel, also with huge equipment, to drill wells in region number 9. Yes, I think it's about over 40 wells that were dug. But there was a collaboration between the Ministry of Natural Resources and also the Ministry of Communities, as it was then called. So for the first time, these persons were able to turn their taps and receive potable water, and not rusted water, water with high iron content as we see today. So let's fast track to from 2020 to 2024. The People's Progressive Party Civic, rather than building on what they inherited from the coalition government, you see them building all these wells for 2024 alone. For coastal water supply, we had injected some $14 billion. This is water on the coast, where we live in. We're living in the coast. This is that hinterland. But yet, with all this oil money that we're seeing in this country floating around the place, with all these water plants that they're constructing, whether in Eccles, whether in Perseverance, wherever in communities, to better water supply, we have seen a complete failure under this administration. So I want to say to Susan Rodriguez, you can jump high, you can jump low, you can go left, you can go right. At no point in time, what y'all are doing now cannot equate with what the coalition did. Because under the coalition government, Shaneika, Guyanese must remember, you had 24/7, 24
Water
hours per
supplies.
day, 7 days a week, water supply under the coalition government from
Correct.
2015 to 2020. I remember, because when I started university, the PPP was in government. And I remember having late classes, heading home from university, late classes. You got call home, ensure you get a bucket, secure a bucket of water for me so that when I come, I could have a fresh. I couldn't gone home at 10 or after 10 at night and turn on the shower
Turn
and
on.
have flowing
Correct.
water. No,
Correct.
but under the coalition government, without oil money, without any oil money pumping into GWI, we were able to have flowing water, and not high iron content water, Susan Rodriguez. Guyanese were able to enjoy water running through the taps. You remember you had water rationing under the People's Progressive Party Civic. By 10 o'clock in the morning, water shut off 6 to 10 in the morning.
Gone. And
Right?
it's same thing now.
Good. And it will come back at 12 o'clock, or in some cases, you ain't getting it at all till 4 o'clock or 6 o'clock in the afternoon. That is what we inherited in May of 2015. But what we did, we changed the game because we believe that in order for our country to progress, we got to invest to make our Guyanese people better enjoy this good life. And with the little resources that we had, we were able to do routine maintenance on all the wells. We were able to ensure that rationing of water was a thing of the past. You could have been at home as a housewife 10 o'clock in the morning and you're still drawing water, full water, not drinking water from your taps, full water, right? From your taps. Now you turn on. We're seeing for soon as you turn on in the yard, you ain't getting, I sure if I go out from my house into the yard, no water is flowing through the taps. No water is flowing through the taps. Or in some cases, soon as you turn on the taps, is high iron content in the water. So the question we need to ask, and I would like Madam Susan Rodriguez to answer this question, because since she seems to know it all on water supply. With all this money pumping, with all this well drilling, when you're going to ensure that Guyanese benefit from potable, purified water flowing through their pipes? That's the question I want to put to Susan Rodriguez. So, I mean, there are other issues under the Ministry of GWI that I can speak to, that the coalition was able to address. Leakage was a thing of the past. Now, you driving through some communities, you seeing leaking pipes. Susan Rodriguez, rather than doing TikTok every day, tell the Guyanese people how you intend, or how your government intend to address these problems, these minor problems. You can't say that the coalition opposition in the National Assembly, we cut the budget. You come and you asked for 14 billion last year, and then you came back just before the end of 2024 on December 18, 2024. We approved an additional $1.8 billion. $1.8 billion in December, just a couple of days ago, less than a month. I remember asking Colin Crowell, I said, buddy, what y'all doing with this high iron content in the water? Oh, MP Ferguson, we're going to have that addressed by December 31st, 2024. Well, December 31st came and went. And Shaneika, I'm you,
same thing.
As of today, 10th of January 2025, people are still seeing high iron content flowing through the water. In order to solve the problem, you know what Guyanese got to do? Private citizens got to do? We have to be buying filters so as to avoid sediments from the high iron content, flowing through the water. That is what we have to do. What Guyanese got to do? Drinking water, we got to go bounce the AH and pay $200 when we living in a country with a land of many waters.
Many waters.
The road on a daily basis, and the young man or the young woman hustling their trade by selling water. You gotta buy 2 bottles just to quench your thirst. That shouldn't be in a country where you got trillions or billions of money passing through our economy. Why put our citizens through this hardship? And I'm saying, in order for all of this to change, we got to change this government. And let us return to the glorious days. Let us return to those enjoyable days between 2015 May to August 2020.
Correct is right. In the same ministry, we just talked a bit on the water there. The next issue that, has been floating, and, they're talking about how many house lots they have given out and how many this and how many that. Now, pre 2015, we know that a lot of people, quote unquote, got lands, but they weren't lands by any standard. They were swamps. They would give you, make you pull a lot number out of a bag, and you're waiting months, sometime a whole year and change or more before you could even proceed to see what you're paying for, because of the state of the areas that they were just giving out for the sake of giving out. And it was under the coalition between the period of 2015 to 2020, where we saw a rapid program by that ministry of ensuring that infrastructure was developed before handing out lands. Therefore, when persons begin to get house lots, they were able to go and see where those lots are, and they could have started work because they didn't have a swamp to deal with. And we basically saw a boom in persons being able to prepare their homes and build homes between 2015 and 2020. I think the program was called Home and Beyond or something like that, to whatever year, I think 2025 or something to that extent. But you saw infrastructure being put into these areas, ensuring that people had the basic water, light, and roads. So when they go to their properties, they could have built. And here again, they have returned. And before I get to that, I want to add, they talk about how many house lots they're giving, forgetting that it was the coalition government who had to bring up the years and did a massive program to clear off applications that were there since 1992 under the PPP government. From their first year of government, house lots, people who applied 1992. And even in this time, we see them making videos and taking photos with people explaining how they applied for a house lot 20 years ago, and they now give it to them. And they want praise and glory when the coalition spent basically 4+ years in power, and a man applied for a house like 20 years ago, 23 before that, and then add how much ever you got now. You were in power, but you want citizens to bow down and take pictures because after 20 years, they finally got a response. And I think we ought to remind them that it was under the coalition government we would have brought those application dates up to about 2014 or 2013, somewhere thereabout, in terms of persons getting house lots. That was a vast amount with proper infrastructure. Let's talk about that.
Thank you very much, Shaneika. You just up my alley here. You know, Shaneika, I must let your viewers have an appreciation and an understanding of what we inherited.
Mm-hmm.
And I will start off by saying this. You would recall, I wasn't at the ministry from the get-go. I went to housing in April of 2019 when I was reassigned. I was at public infrastructure then.
Mm-hmm.
But never, while at public infrastructure, I never got the true picture of what is really happening in the housing sector. It is not until I got there and I had my own experience, then I realized what our people were faced with under a wicked regime pre-May 2015. I know my other colleagues, Valerie Patterson and Keith Scott, the two of them served prior to me going there, and they did their best. They did what they had to do. But I need to remind your viewers and listeners, you would recall just before the 2011 elections, there was a program, the 1,000 housing project on the Irfan Ali in the
Mm-hmm.
Providence area, of where
Mm-hmm.
they built, these small houses and so forth. And I can
Correct.
tell you, when we took over in 2015, the housing fund that we should have used to do extensive work, the housing fund, we had to take close to, no, we had to take about 2 billion Guyana dollars out from the housing fund to correct many of the defects
Mm-hmm.
on those houses in Perseverance and in Providence on the east bank of Demerara. You had
Mm-hmm.
people who moved in, you had facets falling off from the wall, you had the houses, in some cases, houses were flooded, you had bad
Big cracks.
electrical installation done, and all. The correction was done by the coalition government so that
Mm-hmm.
those people now can live peacefully in
Comfortable.
their homes and comfortable.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The model, you spoke about infrastructure, you spoke about water and all manner of things, and you're absolutely correct. But let us make a comparison. When the People's Progressive Party Civic in pre-May of 2015 were issuing thing they call house lot, but we know it was bush lots because
Mm-hmm.
many people couldn't access. Why they couldn't access? And we have the study. The coalition government did a study in 2015 looking at the challenges in the housing sector. And that study will show you you had beyond 50% full occupancy of many of the housing schemes, whether created under the People's Progressive Party Civic, whether in Eccles, whether in Tushen, whether in Parfait Harmony, in Providence. Many
Mm-hmm.
people could not have access, Shanika, viewers and listeners of this program, because one, there wasn't any roads. Two, there wasn't no water supply. Thirdly, there wasn't no electricity. And those are the basic things one will have to get before they
Mm-hmm.
commence construction. So many
Mm-hmm.
of these things were missing, but it was the coalition government that was able to address some of these things. Now, Shanika, you would know the model housing scheme that I like to use or reference to, created by the coalition government, was
Mm-hmm.
the Perseverance Housing Scheme.
Yes.
If
Mm-hmm.
one is to leave Georgetown now and go to use the Red Road, Marseille Road, and you follow the road, go way down at the back till you
Back.
can't go
Mm-hmm.
no more. You could either go right or left. You will
Mm-hmm.
see the different types of houses that were
Mm-hmm.
constructed under the coalition government. You had the bungalow roof houses, you had
Mm-hmm.
the duplex houses, you had the two elevated houses, and I think
Mm-hmm.
there is another mix. So you had a mixture of housing units, or you have, I can't say you have, right?
Correct.
A number mixture of housing units in the Perseverance Housing Scheme. And let me tell you,
Mm-hmm.
Shanika, people hadn't issues or challenges accessing those homes because you know
Correct.
why? Water was there,
Mm-hmm.
electricity was there, roads were there, and now that community, people are living comfortable because our policy as a coalition government was to create a cohesive environment where we have families under one roof. But under this People's Progressive Party Civic, with oil money, because then we had oil money, we build all them
Correct.
houses, we don't have oil money. Those are monies that we use from the housing fund. We didn't get money like all the other ministries from the consolidated fund. No, we were told utilize the housing funds that you have there to do your work, and that is what we did. Now, Shanika, got this government. I don't care how much the beat we up on that the coalition government only gave out 7,000 and so much house that I am happy that at least we were able to give out because at that time that's what was available to us. Because remember, Shanika, the Ministry of Housing don't got a stockpile of lands. We got land stock up. We have to procure these lands, whether from home, from Gaisuku or lands and survey. And if private citizens want to give up their lands for housing purposes, we got to procure these things for me. So I am comfortable with our achievements. And if we had more years in government, I believe that we would have done remarkably well in the housing sector. But I'm happy for what we have accomplished in less than 4 years without oil money. Now let us fast back to 2020 to 2024. Now, Shaneika, you're boasting about giving 50,000 house lots before or by the end of your term. We were, I saw the last report, I think the last report for 2024. The minister is on record, Colin Crowell, saying that for 2024, they have distributed some 10,791 house lots. As of January 4th, 2024, for 2023, they claim that they gave out some 8,000, I think it's 8,500 house lots, something around that figure, bringing a total between 2020 to 2023 to 34,406 house lots they would have distributed. Shaneika, I am telling you, I could bet my last dollar. Nowhere this government distributed no 34,000 house lot as January 4th, 2023. 2020, yeah, 21st of December 2023. No way as at December 31st, 2024, has the Ministry of Housing and Water distributed some 10,791. Let Colin Crowell tell me, provide this nation with a breakout where these 10,794 house lots can be found. It is not only giving out house lots, you have to do something. It is how many persons were able to build out of this 10,791 you claim that you have given out in 2024. Tell us what percentage from this total was able to construct a complete home, or even if not a complete home, at least a home that they can live in for the time being until better can come. No, but what you have happening, Shaneika, is that many of these house lots that they give out, because the people just reach out to me. Up to now, people who get house lots in Lee Souvenir on the east coast of Demerara, they can't access. Correct. They cannot access to start their construction. There is no road. There is no electricity. There is no water supply. So we are boasting about. What are you boasting about? And what our citizens must realize, Shaneika, this government is doing you a favor by giving you a house lot. You just got to pay for these house lots. You just got to pay for the and the Constitution, Article 26 is clear. That it is a right for every citizen to have proper housing accommodation. So therefore, it is the obligation of any government in office to ensure that our people are housed properly. No, but what you have happening here now, Shaneika, you got the turning up at these areas where they give all these distributed houses. I got people taking out photo. What are you trying to say? Under the coalition government, we didn't do that. We didn't do that. We looking for photo ops. We were able to do what we had to. But under this government here now, you got people turning up with the ministers at the lands, and they got to take out photographs. So I am saying any government that really wants to measure their performance, not only in household distribution, you got to measure your performance to ensure out of the number of house lots distributed, at least 100 Guyanese were able to build their homes. At least
Correct.
1,000 Guyanese were able to have access from banks without any challenges. Because you're going to have the land, you pay for the land, but you cannot construct, Shaneika, because why?
Mm,
The banks are unfavorable to you. Because if you don't meet their criteria, you're being disapproved. So a government must be able to, to measure or evaluate their performances by
mhm.
meeting
By the
these
outcome. Mhm. All right, we are sharp and out of time at this point, and we didn't ever get to speak about all of the things that I wanted us to talk about. So that means we have to find another day as
part
well
two.
to, yes, a
We have to
part
do a
two
part two.
to get to the other stuff. So I will definitely be calling you for us to do that. As we quickly wrap up the program, I want to give you the opportunity to say to their viewers any other thing that you want to emphasize before we close.
Yes. Thank you very much once again, Shanika, for the opportunity of appearing on your program. Let me speak through these lens before me here to my Guyanese brothers and sisters who are hearing the sound of my voice. 2025 is a defining year for all of us. And
Mhm.
I'm saying to you, Guyana, do not elect a government because you could get contracts or because you think the government is reachable or things like that. You must be able to assess your government on all fronts, the economy, socially, and politically, before you make your decision. And I'm saying to you, Guyana and Guyanese, those of us who will be voting at the upcoming elections, we have had this government for 4 years thus far. We have seen the trials and tribulations that we went through with them. We have seen the challenges we faced with them. And if we're to compare with what we had in between 2015 and 2020, I know in your heart, you know that the coalition was the best for Guyana. So I say to you, this day, on this 10th day of January 2025, making your choice, the only way we could get out from this situation, this confusion, this wickedness that we face under a government is by making the right choice. And the right choice is to elect a government that cares for you, the people. A right choice is to elect a government that will ensure that you are protected. We see what is happening in the Guyana police force. We ain't getting protection. I can't go to the police force and lodge a complaint and get results immediately. We have seen what is happening in our families, in our communities, and by extension, our country, in all the sectors. Nothing ain't going right. We have a corrupt regime, and we must call it for what it is. We have a government that don't care for you, the ordinary people. It's all about themselves, their families, their friends, and their associates. And I'm saying to you, Guyana, the time will come when you must make that call and make the right choice to elect a government that will bring you out from what we currently face. And the only government I see doing this would be a coalition government led by a APNU and the AFC. So with those few words, I want to say once again, Shanika, I want to sound like a preacher. I want to say, Shanika, thank you very much for having me on your program. And I look forward to part two of this session where we can continue the conversation. May God richly bless you, my people. May God bless your family. And by extension, may God bless our beautiful nation, Guyana. Thank you very much, Shaneika.
Thank you so much. And thank you to our viewers today. Of course, it's always a pleasure having you here. And as I always remind you, it is our duty as citizens to continue to hold this government accountable in everything that they do. And when the time comes and you must vote, you vote and ensure that Guyana gets a better life by voting this government out. Thank you very much and do have a great weekend.